Bright and seductive beauty, times cold and ascetic deity, Lord Yutan became the taskmaster of saving the tragic fate of the female supporting characters, and she couldn't understand how these female supporting characters played a good hand poorly. So Yutan aspired to help these female supporting characters turn over and become masters, but how did her female supporting characters turning over system become a strategy system after encountering a certain man, always letting her conquer the gods and adults? The cold and dignified business tycoon was initially as indifferent as snow. I don't raise idle people around me. Finally, I couldn't help but push the person to the corner. The dark blue phoenix eyes were a bit dangerous. Tell them, you already have a fiancé. The unparalleled young master, who regards the world as his chess game, is as gentle as jade. When the wind and moon enter the game, I am willing to lose to you. The Qingjue monk, with a jade-like face, fell into the mortal world and said, the Buddha said, I am waiting for someone who has a lover, and that person is you. The shadow guard, who hid his unique appearance under the mask, was very devout. He would like to be the shadow of the Royal Highness Princess forever. Yutan, who realized that these people were actually the same, laughed dangerously and gritted his teeth, grabbing onto a certain system. Aren't you a female supporting body turning system? Why do you still have strategy missions? The system is guilty, of course, because it is the system of a certain man. Adults have fate and have to follow it. Yutan. It seems that he accidentally flirted with a certain deity. 1v1 sliced male lead, dual clean, dedicated to sweet pet for 80 years, no abuse. This article mainly focuses on the main emotional line, mind not to enter. Keywords of the novel. Fast wearing. Fishing style beauties make abstinence masters cry without a pop-up window, fast wearing. Fishing style beauties make abstinence masters cry. Download the full text. Fast wearing. Fishing style beauties make abstinence masters cry. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrity, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 1. The piercing sound of the car flute sounded in his ears, and Yutan, who had just entered this world, couldn't help but frown and open his eyes in confusion. The asphalt road under his feet was scorching under the scorching sun. Yutan looked up and saw a black luxury car parked in front of him. A man in a suit walked down from the passenger seat, with a dignified appearance, a gentle and imposing tone. Miss, please make way and don't stand in the center of the road. At the center of the road. Yutan's beautiful eyebrows furrowed slightly. So does the original owner of this body want to commit suicide? At this moment, the system 002 in my mind made a ding sound, and the immature Jing Taiyin said, detected the key figure, the fiancé of the original owner. Su Xilan. Yutan looked at the man in front of him, raised his eyebrows lightly, and communicated with 002 in his heart, this is Su Xilan. He doesn't look very good either. Although she has a bit more momentum than ordinary people, it completely does not match her imagination of a domineering CEO. System 002 support. This is his secretary, Su Xilan is still in the car. Upon hearing this, Yutan's beautiful peach blossom eyes flashed with a hint of interest, and he walked over to the side of the car and knocked on the window. Is it convenient to give me a ride? His voice is light, slow, and pleasant, exuding a hint of leisure. Su Xilan's secretary was startled by Yutan's sudden action, and immediately stepped forward to stop him. His tone became much more serious than before. Miss, please leave immediately. I originally thought it was a crazy person who hit the nail on the head, but now it seems that someone who admires their CEO dares to use this dangerous way to strike up a conversation without even realizing it. Your CEO hasn't spoken yet, can you make a decision for him? Yutan smiled and spoke without any courtesy. Although she wore a mask and hat, revealing only a pair of eyes, her aura could not be ignored at all. The slightly raised peach blossom eyes are very beautiful, exuding a strong sense of alienation. The secretary frowned, almost writing the 4 words, whimsical, on her face. I advise you to give up. Our CEO never allows unfamiliar women to board the car, and we already have a fiancé AE. The secretary raised the identity of fiancé AE and hoped that Yutan could understand the difficulties and withdraw. Su Xilan has attracted the attention of many women abroad due to her strong family background and outstanding appearance. In order to avoid their entanglement, she often uses the name of her unremarkable fiancé AE to block her romantic relationship. However, contrary to the secretary's expectations, Yutan had no intention of retreating. Instead, he chuckled lightly and sincerely praised, I uphold male virtues. Secretary. If you don't take unfamiliar women to the car, then you should take your fiancé AE with you, right? Su Xilan. Yutan's speech slowed down, and there was a sly smile in his seductive peach blossom eyes. Fiancé Su Xilan's secretary was momentarily stunned, unable to even reflect the meaning behind Yutan's words. However, before he could digest this astonishing fact, the window glass of the rear seat had slowly lowered. Inch by inch, revealing Su Xilan sitting in the back seat. The clear and smooth jawline, slightly raised phoenix eyes, and high nose bridged together form an extremely perfect face. At this moment, those beautiful phoenix eyes were quietly staring at Yutan, with no emotions visible in the pitch-black pupils. Double clean, sliced male lead, always sweet pet root. I will carefully consider any aspects and character designs I want to see and feel free to mention them in the comments section. If you are interested in meeting my baby for the first time, you can go and browse the old book, Quick Wearing System. A Wish from the Goddess. The male lead of this book and the female lead of the old book are the goddess siblings. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 2. Let's get to know each other again, Yutan said with a slightly curved red lip and a pleasant voice. My name is Yutan. The last 2 words fell and immediately stirred up a silent wave. The secretary couldn't believe her ears. It was just a coincidence that she met the legendary fiancé AE of the CEO on the main road. In the silence, Su Xilan spoke first and uttered these few words without much emotion. Get in the car. Yutan naturally got into the car, and the cold air from the car's air conditioning suddenly dissipated the hot and dry feeling of standing on the roadside. She took off her hat and mask and let out a comfortable breath. Where are you going? Su Xilan asked in a low voice, his slender legs overlapping, and his stunning face calm without any waves. Yutan tilted his head slightly and leaned closer, with a bright color at the end of his eyes. There's nowhere to go, I need Mr. Su to take me in, he said with Yutan's tone not very serious. Su Xilan turned his head to look at Yutan, unable to distinguish whether she was joking or not. Then let Secretary Wu help you arrange your accommodation. Yutan chuckled lightly and acted recklessly, saying, That's so troublesome, just stay at your house. Secretary Wu. How dare you say it? Unexpectedly, Su Xilan nodded. Sure. Yutan was slightly stunned, and immediately remembered what his secretary had just said, that Su Xilan often used the name of having a fiancé AE to block the peach blossom while abroad. Now her ready-made shield has arrived, no need for it. Sure enough, Su Xilan continued in the next second. However, I don't raise idle people around me. Since you want to live in my house, you need to help me solve some troublesome women. Su Xilan's dark eyes calmly looked at Yutan, indifferent as if he were treating a business partner. Yutan chuckled and joked, being too good-looking will definitely cause a lot of trouble. Su Xilan didn't answer, but instead, Secretary Wu, who was sitting in the passenger seat, glanced at Yutan through the rearview mirror and said to himself, So you've encountered a lot of trouble, haven't you? After discussing it, Yutan leaned back in his seat, pretending to close his eyes and rest, actually carefully flipping through the plot of this world. This is Yutan's first mission as a taskmaster. To save the life of the female supporting character. The female supporting actress in this world is also known as Yutan. She has beautiful looks and long legs, and her career is smooth. However, after meeting the male lead Mo Xian, she completely becomes Mo Xian's stepping stone. Not only was it used by Mo Xian to demand resources under the guise of dating, but it was also kicked away by Mo Xian after being drained. It was not until he was dumped that he sadly realized that Mo Xian had already been with his own younger sister Yu Rong. Mo Xian and Yu Rong happily announced their love story and accepted the blessings of their fans. Before the heartbroken and destitute female supporting character Yutan could seek an explanation from Mo Xian and Yu Rong acted first because they were afraid of retaliation. Mo Xian came forward to admit that Yutan had tried to rule him. In addition, with the testimony of Yu Rong, the younger sister, everyone believed that Yutan was a morally corrupt and unforgivable person, and there was a lot of online criticism. The original fans left their fans and stepped back, causing brand owners to terminate their contracts one after another. Yutan was burdened with a high penalty for breach of contract. Yutan couldn't bear such a blow, and in a daze, he fell into suicide. In this way, Yutan, the hottest top-tier actress in the entertainment industry, ended up with such a dismal ending overnight. At this time, Su Xiulan had just returned from abroad and had not had a chance to find Yutan when he heard the news of his death. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 3. After reading it, Yutan was completely speechless. She originally said she had nowhere to go, but it was just a casual excuse. Unexpectedly, a prophecy came true. Yutan's property was sold off to pay off his debts, and he still owed a lot of debt. As for the Yu family, Yutan is not considering going back for the time being. Yu Rong is not a good person, and her father and mother are biased towards her. They must have believed what Yu Rong and Mo Xian said. "Miss Yu, get off the car." Upon hearing the secretary's voice, Yutan opened his eyes and saw a slender figure who had already walked away through the window glass. He has a straight posture and a superior proportion, with long legs wrapped in black suit pants. Just watching him walk makes him feel pleasing to the eye. Yutan's peach blossom eyes curved slightly, and she was very interested in Su Xiulan. "It's good to call me Mrs. Su in advance." The secretary's forehead couldn't help but drip a cold sweat. Although Su Xiulan had reached an agreement with Yutan in the car, he dared not casually call this title without Su Xiulan's permission. Upon hearing Yutan's innermost thoughts, 002 quickly jumped out at the right moment. "Host, do you like Su Xiulan? There is a hidden task that you must want to do," which is Yutan raised his eyebrows and interrupted 002's words, "I don't want to." "Are you joking? If you can paddle, of course you need to." And when this dog system tricked her into doing tasks, it didn't say there were any hidden tasks. 002. Inside, completing hidden tasks can earn double points. Deal. 002. Why don't you first listen to what hidden tasks are? Congratulations to the host for unlocking the hidden mission and targeting the target character. Su Xiulan. Yutan sat on the sofa in Su Xiulan's office, drowsy, not even paying attention to when Su Xiulan came back from a meeting. Su Xiulan slid the mouse with his cold white fingertips and looked at Yutan's information over the past few years on the computer. Yutan woke up in a daze and looked up at Su Xiulan. A few rays of light through the glass window reflected on his face, casting a small shadow under his slender and sparse eyelashes. The tall and straight bridge of the nose separates light and shadow, creating a faint arc. Yutan's heart suddenly slowed down, realizing that there really are people in the world who look so beautiful. Seeing Yutan's sleepy eyes, Su Xiaolan lightly tugged at the corner of his lips and sneered. Not adhering to women's virtues. Yutan. This person actually heard what she said outside the car. However, judging from the secretary's intentions, Su Xiaolan has been keeping herself clean abroad, while the original owner couldn't help but fall in love. It seems that she is quite ungrateful towards women's virtues. Even if this engagement was only verbally acknowledged by the parents when the two were young. Su Xiaolan's gaze slowly shifted from the words "Mo Xian" on the screen to Yutan's face, his voice icy cold. Just because of a man, you want to commit suicide? Of course not. Yutan flicked his hair and confidently said an unconvincing excuse. I just got lost. Su Xiaolan remained silent for a few seconds, his gaze fixed on Yutan, as if saying, can you still talk a little more? I'm hungry. Yutan lazily yawned and looked at Su Xiaolan with one hand resting on his cheek. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes were filled with physiological tears, looking pitiful. You don't need to deliberately act coquettish, it can make people's hearts soften. Just as I fell asleep and didn't feel much, I woke up with a strong sense of hunger in my empty stomach. The original owner of this body is not in a good mental state due to online insults, and has not had a serious meal in the past few days. His body is already very weak. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 4. Su Xiaolan lowered her gaze and glanced at the silver watch on her wrist, which was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Didn't we have lunch at noon? Yutan nodded, not to mention not having lunch. Su Xiaolan was about to speak when he heard a knock on the door. Secretary Wu walked in and placed a folder on Su Xiaolan's desk, saying, Mr. Su, this is the report you need. Also, Miss Xia is here. Speaking of which, Secretary Wu's eyes carried a clear sense of helplessness. Yutan raised his eyebrows slightly, indicating that Miss Xia should be a difficult person to deal with. After hearing Secretary Wu's words, Su Xiaolan's expression remained unchanged, as if he didn't even know Miss Xia as mentioned by Secretary Wu. Don't bother with her. After leaving these 4 words behind, Su Xiaolan continued to look at the computer screen. However, the next moment, the soft and weak voice of Miss Xia came from outside. Brother Su, I heard your voice. As soon as I know you have returned to China, I will fly back to find you. You can agree with me, and it was my aunt's intention to come today. Xia Yinyun moved out the name of Su Xiaolan's mother, hoping to persuade Su Xiaolan. Secretary Wu had a helpless expression on his face. Xia Yinyun had been haunting Mr. Su since he was abroad, but he never expected to be haunted by him even after returning to China. Su Xiaolan glanced sideways at Yutan, his beautiful eyes still captivating even if they had no emotional connection. I'll leave it to you. Okay. A hint of interest flashed in Yutan's eyes. Not to mention that she needs to rely on Su Xiaolan to support her now, just because Su Xiaolan is her 200 points, Miss Xia will definitely solve this problem. Let her in. Su Xiaolan turned to Secretary Wu and said, however, Xia Yunyun outside should have heard it and rushed in excitedly. Brother Su, you finally agreed to meet me once. When she was abroad, she didn't necessarily see Su Xiaolan once even after 10 visits. How could you be unhappy about being able to come in so easily this time? However, the excitement on Xia Yunyun's face had not lasted for 3 seconds before he stiffened at the sight of Yutan on the sofa. Yutan was so hungry that he didn't have much strength, so he was half lying on the sofa, with a lazy posture, and it didn't seem like he was discussing business with Su Xiaolan. Her delicate features, coupled with a pair of slightly raised peach blossom eyes, are stunning, adding a touch of sharpness to Yutan's beauty, belonging to the category of seductive beauties. But unfortunately, the ink pupils are clear, the temperament is clean, and this sense of contradiction is more attractive. She has a delicate and graceful figure, wearing a white slim-fitting short skirt, revealing her fair and slender legs. Xia Yunyun's heart suddenly sounded an alarm. As a woman, Xia Yunyun naturally knew how powerful Yu Tan's killing power was. I didn't expect you to be discussing business. I accidentally disturbed your work. I'm sorry, Brother Su. Xia Yunyun hid her hostility in her heart, put on an innocent and self-blaming smile, and walked affectionately to Su Xiulan's side. Su Xiulan didn't answer, but Yu Tan chuckled lightly. Talking about official business. The slightly raised peach blossom eyes looked at Xia Yunyun with a smile on their face, causing him to nervously and jealously pinch his fingers. If you know you're bothering us, hurry up and leave. After all, the things we're discussing are not suitable for outsiders to listen to. Yu Tan smiled meaningfully and said, Is that right, Xiulan? Su Xiulan, who had been silent for a long time, let out a rare With just this response, Xia Yunyun almost couldn't hold his breath with jealousy, and after a moment, he forced on a gentle smile. The young lady is right, she doesn't understand everything about business. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 5. Brother Su, Auntie is worried that you will work too hard and neglect your health, so today I came to visit you on behalf of Auntie. Well, Yu Tan's beautiful peach blossom eyes curved slightly, but Xiulan's body is quite good. I was very satisfied with her performance last night. After speaking, he glanced at Su Xiulan in a special position, implying a strong sense of meaning. Su Xiulan. Secretary Wu. Sweating. Upon hearing these words, Xia Yunyun couldn't help but blush with anger. Don't be shameless, how could you possibly have that kind of relationship with Brother Su? Su Xiulan is someone that Xia Yunyun has wholeheartedly loved since her student days, to the point where she sees Su Xiulan as a deity. To her, Yu Tan's words are a stain on Su Xiulan. What's the relationship between me and your brother Su, can't you still tell? Yu Tan's lips curved slightly, and he stood up and walked towards Su Xiulan. In Su Xiulan's astonishment, he sat directly on his thigh. In an instant, the rich and fragrant scent on Yu Tan's body covered his breathing. Su Xiulan's body was tense, and his cold white fingertips froze. The usual silence in those dark eyes was shattered, replaced by imperceptible panic and astonishment. He has never been so close to any woman because of his serious cleanliness obsession. Su Xiulan panicked and wanted to push Yu Tan away, but when he placed his hand on Yu Tan's waist, he touched the warm fabric, as if he had been scalded by a soldering iron. I had to unnaturally keep my face shut and my cold voice became a bit hoarse. Get up. Yu Tan saw Su Xiulan's appearance, and a joyful light flashed in his peach blossom eyes. It's so cute. Yuden Lotus Root's white jade arm wrapped around Su Xiulan's neck and whispered in Su Xiulan's ear. Let's cooperate, Mr. Su. The hot air spitting in his ear lightly hooked Su Xiulan like a small hook, itching a bit, and his ear tip burned up. Yu Tan's ending carried a hint of laughter, unconsciously teasing people. Although he didn't know how many times he had heard others call him Mr. Su, Yu Tan's shouting made Su Xiulan feel a bit different. Xia Yunyun, who had been stunned since Yu Tan sat in Su Xiulan's arms, finally realized at this moment. Full of anger, she rushed forward to try to pull Yu Tan up, but was stopped by Secretary Wu. Xia Yunyun stared at Yu Tan, his eyes red, wishing he could turn into a knife and stab him. She only returned home a few days late, how could there be other women around Brother Su so quickly? Do you know that Brother Su already has a fiancée AE? After calming down for a few seconds, Xia Yunyun attempted to use this legendary person to keep Yu Tan away from Su Xiulan. After this incident was reported, Xia Yunyun went to confirm it with Su's mother. However, Sue's mother also said that this matter was just a verbal joke at the time, and it didn't necessarily mean that both sides were serious, so she still had a chance. Upon hearing Xia Yunyin's words, Yu Tan's smile deepened in his eyes, but he pretended to be surprised and asked. Do you know what his fiancée A's name is? Of course, Xia Yunyin answered proudly, and she also asked Sue's mother this question. Her name is Yu Tan. Yu Tan suddenly burst out laughing, and a hint of amusement flashed in Su Xiulan's calm eyes. Coincidentally, my name is Yuten. A clear voice with a unique texture sounded. Suddenly, it exploded like a bolt from the blue in Xia Yunyin's ear. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 6, after Xia Yunyin, who was confused, was politely invited out by Secretary Wu, Yu Tan's aura suddenly dissipated. He was extremely hungry, without any strength, and collapsed directly in Su Xiulan's arms. Mr. Su, I am a celebrity. A cold and pleasant voice came from above, quietly waiting for Yu Tan's next words. Yu Tan said weakly, next time we encounter this kind of thing, we'll have to pay more. After speaking, Yu Tan felt his eyes turning black. Su Xiulan didn't realize what was going on, so he gently pushed Yu Tan and realized that he had already passed out. After waking up, Yu Tan smelled a strong smell of disinfectant and realized that he was in the hospital. The sky outside the window is dim, it should be around 6 or 7 o'clock. Miss Yu, how are you feeling now? The voice of Secretary Wu came, and after what happened in the office today, Yu Tan's status had been elevated in his mind. After all, it was the first time he had met a woman who was so special to his CEO. Mr. Su was originally accompanying you at the hospital, but he went back first because there were a few documents that needed to be processed temporarily. Yu Tan nodded, and on the first day we met, she didn't expect that indifferent man to be so passionate about her. You fainted due to hypoglycemia. Mr. Su instructed you to have a balanced dinner. Do you want to eat something now? Yu Tan glanced at the lunch box in Secretary Wu's hand. Celery fried meat, carrots fried shredded potatoes, and so on, frowning slightly. They were all things she didn't like to eat. Perhaps due to losing glucose, Yu Tan is no longer as hungry and has become picky eaters. 002, how much money do I owe the creditor? Not much, 20 million Yu Tan. Then I can rest assured. 002. I took out my phone and dialed the creditor's phone number. Hello. I'm Yu Tan. I am currently at XX hospital. Yes, I am quite seriously ill. I really want to have hot pot now. I'm about to give up treatment for the hospital's food. Alright, then hurry up. 002 shocked. Host, you still owe so much money. How could they possibly send you hot pot? Yu Tan lay leisurely on the hospital bed, communicating with 002 in his mind. You don't understand, if I die, who will pay back these 20 million? 10 minutes later, the group of people quickly brought Yu Tan an electric cooker and various hot pot ingredients. He also very thoughtfully inquired about Yu Tan's condition and advised him not to feel too much pressure. Secretary Wu was shocked to witness the entire process, his eyes slightly widened. He has never owed anyone money, so naturally he doesn't understand the existence of such rogue operations. The hot pot quickly boiled up, and the fragrance filled the whole room. Yu Tan's mouth was watering just by smelling it. Just as I picked up a piece of hairy belly and was about to enter, I heard a voice as cold as ice and snow. Are you doing well? Yu Tan looked up and didn't know when Su Xiulan had already stood at the door of the ward. Standing tall with a jade figure, his stunning face was expressionless, and Yu Tan inexplicably felt that his mood was not very good. Su Xiulan gave Secretary Wu a cold glance, and Secretary Wu nervously defended himself, saying, I have advised Miss Yu. Su Shilon didn't answer him and looked at Yutan. Since it's okay, let's go home. Yutan looked at the freshly cooked tripe with reluctance in his eyes. Go back and eat. Having received Su Shilon's promise, Yutan immediately followed Su Shilon back happily, as she was also embarrassed to let these two people watch her eat hot pot. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 7. The road was very quiet, and Su Shilon had a cold personality and didn't say much. Yutan leaned his head against the glass, watching the speeding scenery outside the window while chatting with 002 in his mind. Su Shilon's residence arrived quickly, and there were no lights in the huge luxury villa, half hidden in the night, appearing somewhat desolate. After entering the door, Su Shilon turned on the light and stood at the entrance, looking particularly elegant and composed, taking off his coat. Secretary Wu has prepared slippers for you. Yutan raised his eyebrows and glanced at Su Shilon. Isn't Secretary Wu always guarding her in the hospital? How could he have time to buy her slippers? However, Su Shilon's pitch-black eyes remained calm and composed, like a bottomless lake, making Yutan unable to see any flaws. After putting on his slippers, Yutan followed Su Shilon inside, and within a few steps, he smelled the aroma of chicken soup. It smells so good. When Su Shilon led Yutan to the kitchen, the chicken soup was still simmering slowly in the pot over low heat, with a rich aroma. Su Shilon turned off the fire and served Yutan a bowl. His cold white fingertips rested on the edge of the white ceramic bowl, making it difficult to distinguish which one was whiter for a moment. Even when doing something that exudes a strong sense of life, Su Shilon's movements are calm and pleasing to the eye, with a refined demeanor. Yutan looked at the thick and white chicken soup. Although it looked delicious, what about her hot pot? Isn't it agreed to go home and have hot pot? Yutan's beautiful peach blossom eyes angrily asked Su Shilon, but he was blocked by Su Shilon's cold and indifferent glance. The doctor said that your irregular diet has hurt your stomach. Take a light diet these days. Yutan. Oh. For the sake of 200 points, let's temporarily follow him. Yutan picked up his bowl and took a sip of chicken soup, then happily narrowed his eyes and drank it well. The aunt at home has good craftsmanship. Yutan generously boasted. Su Shilon's eyes flickered slightly, and his fair Adam's apple rolled and let out a hum. Choose any room on the second floor and go to bed after finishing. After Su Shilon finished speaking, he went to the study to handle his work, leaving Yutan in the kitchen to continue drinking soup. Yutan drank while opening his phone, with prominent trending headlines hanging on it. Hashtag Yutan's moral corruption. Hashtag Yutan's younger sister personally testified that Yutan once wanted to get involved in his own feelings. Hashtag Yutan knows 3 when 3. Hashtag the number of viewers has been increasing, and the discussion voices under the hot search are also getting louder, but they are all those who angrily curse Yutan. Yutan is so good. Looking, how could he do such a disgusting thing? That's his own brother. In law. Fortunately, my brother didn't really succeed in following Yutan's unwritten rules, and I feel sorry for him. I heard that Yutan has been bullying and robbing Yu Rong at home, and now he is so crazy that even men want to grab her things. Yutan, this lowly woman, hurry up and get out of the entertainment industry. Seeing such a person makes you sick. How could the same mother teach 2 daughters with such a big difference? One is solo, the first in the girl group, and the other is said to be directed by pajamas. Under the hot search, there will be a lot of cursing, and occasional comments from fans of Yutan will also be surrounded. After all, this matter has been personally acknowledged by 2 parties involved, which seems to be ironclad evidence, and after so long, Yutan has not given any strong response. Yutan sneered at these malicious remarks, and Yu Rong and Mo Xian didn't seem to provide any substantial evidence except for splashing dirty water on her mouth. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 8, and those people online seem to have witnessed her crimes with their own eyes, quickly jumping out to criticize her. Even various types of feces are being slapped on her head, whether it's true or false, as long as they vent their emotions. However, this also mixed with many fans of Yu Rong and the direction of comments guided by the Water Army. Yu Rong and Mo Xian were determined to find and kill her. Jumping clowns. Yu Tan's lips curved a cold curve, and she would repay them all one by one. 002, help me check what announcements Yu Rong and Mo Xian have recently made. Good host, they recently took on a play together called Incredible Fragrance. I will pass on the script to you now. The answer speed of 002 is very fast, just like searching in a search engine to get the answer. Yu Tan was originally just probing 002, but he didn't expect to really get the result he wanted. Because at the time when Yu Tan entered this world, the female supporting character had already died, and the plot she could receive was the memory of the female supporting character. She didn't seem to have any significant advantage as a tasker. Now it seems that the system belongs to her golden finger and is somewhat useful. The next day, Su Xiaolan was reading documents at the company while Secretary Wu stood beside him, reciting Su Xiaolan's work schedule for today. Finally, asked cautiously. You have always disliked attending banquets. Do you still want to attend the banquet at YZ Company tonight? Do you want to bring Miss Yu Tan with you? Su Xiaolan has always disliked crowded places, which means there may be many women who can cause him trouble. However, there are some occasions that require his attendance, so he cannot be considered averse to dinners. Su Xiaolan's eyes flickered slightly, and after a few seconds, he finally answered. Participate, remember to notify Yu Tan in advance. So in the middle of the day, Yu Tan, who had not yet woken up, was awakened by Secretary Wu to choose a dress to do the styling. Yu Tan looked at the proud expression on Secretary Wu's face, which he wanted to hide but couldn't hide, and felt a little speechless in his heart. Secretary Wu thought to himself. Did his reminder remind Mr. Su of Miss Yu? Su and Miss Yutan's happy life are guarded by him. The makeup artist looked at Yu Tan's plain and flawless face with envy, truly deserving of Su's admiration. Not to mention anything else, this face is really amazing. Miss Yu, I have seen your previous makeup. Do you need to follow your usual style? Yu Tan lazily yawned and said, no need. Because the original owner had a gentle personality, the makeup she wore at the event was more inclined towards her preferences. But in Yu Tan's view, the original owner's appearance was an aggressive and seductive beauty, which gave birth to a sense of beauty that was lost by 3 points. The dinner invited many celebrities from the entertainment industry, and a long red carpet was laid outdoors for them to showcase their talents. Moreover, the full live broadcast format made many netizens excitedly squat in the live broadcast room. When Yu Tan and Su Xiaolan arrived, they happened to see Yu Rong and Mo Xian greeting the camera in front of the red carpet. The enemy's path is really narrow. Yu Tan leaned back in his seat and casually looked out the window at the two people showing off their love outside. Su Xiaolan followed Yu Tan's gaze and quietly looked at Mo Xian for 2 seconds. His voice was cold and pleasant. Your taste is not very good. Upon hearing this, Yu Tan immediately became happy and said, I used to have a bad eye. It wasn't until I met you that I realized what a true beauty is. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 9. Su Xiaolan slightly turned his head to avoid Yu Tan's teasing gaze, but his red ear tips exposed his thoughts. On the screen of the live broadcast room, Mo Xian looked clear and handsome in a light blue suit. Yu Rong was wearing a fluffy skirt of the same color scheme, with round apricot eyes and a sweet smile on her face. The two stood together greeting the camera, their hands hanging down and holding each other. That 99 on the barrage flew up. Oh my goodness, these handsome men and beautiful women are too pleasing to the eye. Woo is too sweet. If my brother and sister break up, I will never believe in love again in the future. Yutan was not interested in watching the two of them act like glue in front of the camera, so he simply opened the car door and got off. The slim high heels landed steadily, followed by a wine-red fishtail skirt with fair calf skin like jade. The slim-fitting fishtail skirt is extremely challenging for her figure, but it fits perfectly on Yutan's body and is exquisite and elegant. Yutan wore exquisite makeup, with slightly raised peach blossom eyes and slightly hooked red lips that made her look like a domineering princess, her aura directly crushing Yu-Rong. The wine-red dress accentuated Yutan's almost white to the point of glowing, and standing there alone was enough to attract everyone's attention. The live broadcast shot cleverly cut onto Yutan's body, where enemies met. This scene naturally caught people's attention. Yu-Rong also noticed Yutan, and there was a hint of gloom in Xing's eyes, but she quickly hid it. Why haven't you seen me for a few days? I think Yutan looks so much better than before. Stay calm upstairs. No matter how beautiful Yutan is, she is also a snake and scorpion beauty. She wants to steal her sister's boyfriend. Although it doesn't stop me from enjoying Yutan's beauty. Sister, look at me. Have you noticed Yutan's car? It seems to be the globally limited edition model, worth tens of millions. Yutan won't be included, will you? Yu-Rong looked at Yutan with a clear sense of panic and fear in her eyes, just like Yutan was a fierce beast. And Mo Xian took a slight step forward to protect Yu-Rong behind him, fully demonstrating his masculinity. Yutan looked at Yu-Rong leisurely, with a playful expression in her beautiful eyes. My good sister, she's so afraid of me, isn't she feeling guilty? Yu-Rong froze and reluctantly grabbed Mo Xian's hem. Mo Xian frowned and looked at Yutan with disgust. What are you talking nonsense about? Yutan sneered, is it nonsense that you know your own mind? Yu-Rong was afraid that the audience in the live broadcast room would see something, so she quickly answered the conversation with a helpless and worried expression on her face. Sister, emotions cannot be forced. Mo Xian and I are very happy now. Please don't disturb us anymore. A hint of humor flashed through Yutan's pitch-black eyes. It was clear that Mo Xian had actively pursued the original owner before, but in their mouths, it turned into the original owner's persistent entanglement with Mo Xian. Order some face. You've thought too much. Mo Xian is like this, Yutan said, scrutinizing Mo Xian with a picky gaze, as if looking at uninterested products on the shelf. I still can't look at them. Mo Xian was infuriated by Yutan's gaze, and his handsome face suddenly became somewhat ferocious. After Yutan finished speaking, he turned around and looked at the pitch-black car body, his eyes shining through the car window towards the people inside. I changed my dominant tone when facing Yu-Rong and Mo Xian, and my tone revealed a vague sense of grievance. Mr. Su, are you not even showing up when they bully me like this? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Business Leaders times Beautiful Female Celebrities, 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Business Leaders x Beautiful Female Stars, 10, Bullet Chat, who is my wife shouting at? Is there anyone with the surname Su in the entertainment industry? I can't bear the coquettishness of the beautiful woman anymore, sihahaha. In an instant, Tan Tan transformed from a powerful imperial sister to a petite wife. I want to soul pierce through this Su surname, so happy. The car door opened, and out came a pair of long legs wrapped in black suit pants. A delicately tailored black suit, paired with a high-quality white shirt, sets off Su Xilan's noble and extraordinary appearance. Her facial features were stunning, and her beautiful pitch-black eyes were like flowing obsidian, exuding nobility and alienation. When I scanned the camera with indifference, it seemed like I was staring at each other from afar, and everyone's breath froze. At the moment Su Xiaolan came out, the rolling barrage came to a standstill, followed by even crazier barrage messages. Sleeping slot. When did such a stunning beauty come to the entertainment industry? Same question, I'll fly the child directly. Su Xiaolan walked up to Yu Tan and stood still, slightly lowering his gaze to look at Yu Tan beside him, without giving a single glance to the two people across from him. Yu Tan's facial features are exquisite and extremely beautiful, and standing next to Su Xiaolan is no less impressive. The two of them look very compatible. But Yu Rong and Mo Xian's faces were not so good. Su Xiaolan, who is 1.87 meters tall, is visibly half a head taller than Mo Xian, not to mention the noble and extraordinary aura on Su Xiaolan's body. Su Xiaolan's stop here made Mo Xian, a true celebrity, look like a layman. Just now, the netizen who was still lamenting the love between Yu Rong, Mo Xian, a handsome man, a beautiful woman, and immortals on the barrage. His face hurts a bit as soon as Yu Rong came out of Su Xiaolan, her eyes stuck to her body and couldn't move away. She used to think that Mo Xian was already a rare handsome guy in the entertainment industry, but she didn't expect Yu Tan to find a better man than Mo Xian so quickly. Yu Rong, who was just in love with Mo Xian, now feels a bit embarrassed standing next to him. The feeling of a low and gloomy head made Yu Rong angry. Yu Rong suppressed her sourness and jealousy in her heart and asked, "Sister, this is yours." Yu Tan Guan Air, with a stunning and beautiful face, looks even more beautiful. Of course it's mine. Yu Tan slowed down his tone and lazily said in the anticipation of Yu Rong's gaze. "Why should I tell you?" Yu Rong's face turned black and she went in with Mo Xian. Yu Tan also walked inside with Su Xiaolan, and Su Xiaolan's eyes flickered slightly. "Just now, you can speak directly about our relationship." Yu Tan curved his eyes slightly and said, "It's okay, I just don't want to tell her." Su Xiaolan thought that Yu Tan was afraid that he would mind, so he didn't tell Yu Rong. But Yu Tan has her own thoughts, and this matter will come in handy in the future. Su Xiaolan's beautiful thin lips pursed slightly and remained silent. After entering the banquet room, Su Xiaolan was recognized by many business executives present. I was surprised to see him appear here, especially with a woman by his side. They gathered around to talk to Su Xiaolan about what he was interested in, while Yu Tan was bored and went to explore other places. Su Xiaolan glanced at the back of Yu Tan's departure, his pitch-black eyes like a pool of water, unable to show his emotions. Yu Tan walked around for a while, then deliberately walked towards the corner. After hearing the footsteps following behind her, Peach Blossom's eyes flashed with a few happy lights. "Yu Tan." The familiar voice stopped Yu Tan. Yu Tan turned his eyes and unexpectedly saw Mo Xian's face. End of this chapter.